You don't see the dragons until you have your opportunity to pitch. And we were in there for 2 hours. They are testing your mettle as an entrepreneur. They're also trying to get some entertaining telly. Last week, we sold more bottles of Mother Root in the US than we did in the UK. From here on, it's our larger market, and we've done that in 6 months, which is unreal. When you spot the right person, it's like fundamental to prioritise getting that person in, because it makes a huge difference.
One of the biggest pieces of advice you'll hear as a founder is to find the gap in the market. But what if the real opportunity isn't filling a gap? After a decade in the wine industry, Bethan Higson became frustrated by the alcohol-free options available during her first pregnancy. The next 2 years were spent refining recipes at a kitchen table, combining traditional winemaking techniques with apple cider vinegar. The result 8 years ago was Mother Root, a brand that has helped reshape the non-alcoholic category. In this episode, Bethan takes us through her Dragon's Den experience, how she managed to get Steven Bartlett, among other dragons, to offer her funding, and how Mother Root has continued to scale in the UK and the US. Hi, Bethan. Thank you so much for coming on How to Start Up today. Before we get into all things Dragon's Den, I would love it if you could introduce yourself and a bit about the business that you have started.
Yes, of course. It's a pleasure to be talking to you, Juliet. I'm the founder of Mother Root, and we make fiery non-alcoholic aperitifs that are made with a base of ginger that gives the real lovely slow burn, but also the secret ingredient is apple cider vinegar, which is where all of the complexity and delicious bite comes from.
Oh, I love this because you've gone straight into the goodness of the taste, but you're neglecting to mention that you're in the Times Top 100 and I think the fastest growing UK drinks business.
I know, and I guess that sort of just demonstrates where my passion is and how the business started. I didn't say, oh, here's a gap in the market that I can exploit because non-alcoholic drinks are a booming category. I was the customer and I was obsessed with what is the solution, what is the thing that's missing for me? And it started with product and an obsession with flavour. And so that's where it began. Whereas I think there's a lot of people who sort of jump on it and say, oh, I want a piece of that category. And then I think often that's where things go wrong because you're not thinking about the end customer and you're not really necessarily experiencing that real gap and that need. But yes, I'm so thrilled and so proud with the progress that we've made. I guess being single-minded on the customer and the product has meant that we are now the UK's fastest growing drinks brand. And we were in the Sunday Times Top 100. And it's just phenomenal to see where we've come. In the early stages, I got a lot of, well, are you sure? Does it need to have vinegar in it? That sounds unusual. Can you tone it down a bit? It's quite strong. Maybe you should make non-alcoholic mojitos. And I was quite single-minded about it because I could really see that this delivered on so many things that I loved about drinks, having had a background in the alcoholic drinks world, and that there could be legs in it. But there's a lot that goes into moving that massive rock, the uphill momentum that's required, especially in the early days. And you get a lot of self-doubt because many people just don't get it. So you hold on to those glimmers of the indicators, the green shoots, the signs that no, this is it, to help steer you when a lot of people are giving you lots of advice and you've got to decide which bits you take and which bits you kind of politely ignore.
The unsolicited advice is amazing. I was dumbfounded because I left the Bond Street brands behind and I was made redundant and started, and I sent my website to a few friends to break for me. So can you click all the buttons and all the links and break it and tell me where I'm going wrong? And they say, why do you want to support startups and scale ups? You can do big brands and you should do big brands, and should and could are very different. It's like, I could, but I don't want to. And it was a real lesson of I now have this liberty to choose the direction I'm going in. But for you doing something new, and just going back to your previous points, no one would say to make a margarita less. So why would you make a non-alcoholic drink less?
And that's the real challenge, I think, with the non-alcoholic category today. We sit within that category because of where the category is today. People need to know I'm going to shop those shelves in store. But actually, it helps get found. But if I had my way, it wouldn't be called that. It'd be adult beverage, and it would be alcohol percentage agnostic. It's flavor-led and occasion-led, and actually about the non, because the non really puts it in something that's lesser than, which whole other story. And I think truly over time it will get there, but we are so early in the category itself. I mean, it's 5 midnight if you were looking at the category in comparison to the length the time that alcohol has been around. It's super early days and a long way for this to go, but I'm really excited about its future and leading that creation of it. It's real blank canvas.
Well, this is it. You can be going into retailers and be like, right, there's a whole new category coming. You can be on the front foot with this.
Getting into retailers was something we did only last year. And that was after building a big audience online. So we knew the popularity of it. We had so many repeat customers, people sharing it. But it was still a task to convince the retailers who had built their shelves up with non-alcoholic gin, vodka, rum, beers, to say there was space for this type of drink that wasn't a replica, that was doing its own thing. And they had to take a bit of a risk on it. And then the first ones to move were Ocado and Waitrose, very food focused, very much aligned. So we had a lot of data to say, our customers are shopping with you. So all of that stuff went into the pitch deck. But it still took a lot of effort despite all of that information. But then once we were in and once we started to see the rate of sale and we were climbing to the top of the category, not just non-alc spirits, but the whole of the no and low category complete, that's when things start to sort of the momentum, that rock that I was talking about in the very early days, slowly pushing up a hill, that's where it starts to kind of go more downhill. And yeah, the wind at your back. And
that feeling is like learning how to ski or surf or snowboard, or all the things that I've tried and been all right at, but when it works, it's so dreamy. And that feeling, this is working, but that uphill struggle, do you think it's like the harder the uphill is at the beginning, the more successful, the more reward comes? Or it's luck and chance, you just got to throw everything at it and see what happens?
It's probably a bit of both, because I think if you're truly doing something that's difficult, there will be fewer people who are also as committed to do it. And therefore, you have the potential to have more of the market when it comes to you. And so, yes, I think then it is more yours to own because you've done the hard graft of really opening those doors and you have that first mover advantage. But then it's the flip side of the first mover advantage is that you're the one who's pushing down all the very firmly closed doors. But then when they're open, they are more yours to take advantage of. That's
a really nice way of looking at it, because I think a lot of people in that beginning bit could be really tired and frustrated and just like, is anyone going to get this? Is anyone going to listen? But for you, we're going to talk about getting investment on Dragon's Den, but given your background was in the drinks sector, when did you realise this personal frustration that you thought, actually, there's a business here?
Well, the gap I noticed was, as I said, from personal experience. I was pregnant with my eldest son, who's now 10, so this goes back quite a long time. And I really missed that bite and complexity and the wind down moment, and every option just felt like such a kind of compromise and like an afterthought. And I wanted to feel part of the whole experience. I'd worked in hospitality even longer than 10 years. It's my first jobs were in restaurants and bars. And it's such a meaningful part of what it is to be human. You invite people around for a drink. And really what you're saying is, come round and have a catch up. I want a conversation with you. It's a moment of connection. And you want something that it's a ritual, and you want actually something that is equal to that moment. So it was really from that I discovered vinegar is a really intriguing ingredient that had been used in many ancient drinks. I didn't come up with the concept. People have been including vinegars in their drinks since the Middle Ages and even going back actually till the ancient Egyptians. So a really long history of it, but it was kind of reimagined that history from the modern use case, which was trying to find a decent, proper drink that had loads of flavour. And I loved fermentation and how fermentation makes vinegar, and fermentation is also what makes alcohol, and it's what builds flavour. It's all of those small mini fermentations that happen that actually build something called flavonoids, and that's why you have such full flavour with drinks that have a little bit of vinegar in them. I believe it was the chef of Noma who described vinegar as liquid seasoning. And, you think you add salt, pepper as like the core seasoning, but vinegar is that third seasoning that will just bring a sharpness and an aliveness to
And it's
flavour.
Good for your gut as well. It's just famed for being good all round.
It's good all round. And I guess I felt so good after drinking it, not just because I finally found something that was delicious and really like Moorish, but also the ingredients made me feel good. It's got loads of natural ginger in there that gives you this lovely burn, but also it's very uplifting. It gives you a bit of a pick-me-up, and the apple cider vinegar helps to get that digestive process going. It is all part of feeling good. So the aha moment turning this from something I made and discovered the gap to turning it into business actually came 3 years later, where I'd been mulling it over and seeing the growth of the category. But no one is doing this. And this still feels like the best solution, in my opinion. I was pregnant for the second time and got a big old group of friends who were like NCT kind of friends. And I took them all down to the pub. We were there with our little babies, our first babies. I put playmats on the floor and we had clipboards and I was doing a focus group test with them, just getting their opinions beyond me, beyond my little bubble of, now, would you drink this? When would you drink it? Do you like this one and this one? And like giving them the earliest samples and also like canvassing their thoughts on the name and the format and all sorts. And so that was the very early days. And then basically I got enough encouragement at that point that I decided if I'm actually going to do this and not just think about it, because I was so scared. No one in my family was an entrepreneur. No, none of my friends were. They all did normal jobs, quote, quote.
But scared of what exactly? The risk or the unknown?
I had, like starting a business, all the unknowns. I was like, and also, I am obviously, I wouldn't want it to fail, but I'm more scared of success in a strange way because I knew that this would have the potential to take over my life. And my issue is I'm not very good with boundaries, like self-imposed boundaries.
Is? I mean, we talk about this all the time. Even people who are not self-employed are like doom scrolling at midnight, not doing the meditations or the breath work. Like we all know, but it's very hard. But if you knew that going in, I want to ask it later maybe if there was anything you put in place to protect your boundaries, or because businesses, we know, can take everything and more. And actually Kate Halfpenny from the episode before said this. It will take everything, whatever you offer it, and more of that. So you have to protect yourself, but it's so hard. Yeah, that's probably a whole other episode.
Yeah, I'm a very obsessive person, and I guess many entrepreneurs are. I realised clearly it was a natural part of my personality. It helps enormously to keep digging at something or keep going at something when everything's saying sort of maybe no, don't do it, or to just go deeper in research, or having that sort of blind belief. But the off switch isn't there. And a nod to the boundaries piece is, I guess my family is a self-imposed boundary that is, they need me, and other people needing me, I need that.
But you're still potentially putting yourself at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, so that is so true. But they fill up my cup at the same time. But yes, I'll find up here, it goes in peaks and troughs, and where it's been really intense, like I start to realize it, and I can talk to people in my team. I've got very good trusting relationships with my COO, and we have really good regular one-to-ones where we're super open, and that is a lifesaver. But I would say I noticed when my kids have been away for school holidays, like with the grandparents for a week, that's happened occasionally, and I just don't stop working. And so I know how healthy it has been for me. As mad as it sounds, because obviously it's a lot to juggle a job and run a business and have young kids. But I think actually it's been the making of me.
That forced stop where these two little humans, it's non-negotiable. But it can, especially as you're doing your job, you've created a job for yourself. You're doing something that's never been done before, which is also a really key point for listeners to hear that. It's one thing to do something. So I could have started a PR agency very easily. I'd have made my life very much simpler for myself. And I went another way, and I teach founders how to do their own PR. And it was like, but why? Why would you do that? It's the best thing for the business. It's a project. It's not a retainer. It's how PR should be done. But you can go and go and go. And sometimes I said to a friend, you just have to shut the laptop. We call it laptop down. Even if you haven't finished the email or emptied your inbox, you have to walk away. And it was Ewan Yong in his episode. He's the founder of Out There magazine. He said, just know when the end of your day is and stick to it. If it's 6 p.m, if it's 10 p.m, whatever it is, have structure. I'm like, okay, fine. And we've done a number of episodes on sleep as well. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm really not listening to my guests enough. I was going to ask you, after years of building the business, Dragon's Den became the opportunity to put Mother Root in front of millions of people and some of the best known investors. What made you decide to go on Dragon's Den, given you were already succeeding? And what was the process of getting on the show actually like? We're taking a quick 30-second break from this episode to ask, are you thinking of starting your own podcast? If so, this is great news because we run a course that will train you how to produce your own podcast yourself. This course is for people who do not want to outsource and pay someone else to do it. You want to learn how to do it yourself. We teach you everything that you need to get up and running with your own podcast show and so much more. Just DM us at hello@Fallowfield to book your spot.
So, I don't know how much you know of the whole process, but I might be revealing, what goes on behind the scenes. So many people will apply to go on the show, and then they've got scouts who will look for interesting businesses or interesting kind of stories that they think they would quite like to get on the show. So they invite you to apply. So I was invited to apply, but they still go through the process of then deciding if they want you on the show. So we decided that it was the right time, in the sense of the business was in a good place. And we had just been doing a big 3-year plan. We'd just been raising a round of investment. So all of the financials were in a good place. I had confidence that I could go in and not be the charity case or the laughing stock, which obviously Dragon's Den is an entertainment show. And they want highest highs, they want big successes, or they also want something that you're going to be ridiculous and like digging a hole and being sent out of the den with no offers, etc. But I obviously didn't want that to be my fate. So I thought it was a good time to apply, because the opportunity of getting that much airtime for us, we were doing well, but we're still really young, small business that couldn't afford to get that exposure on TV any other way. And we'd spoken to a few other founders who'd been on it who just said how transformational it had been. So I thought, let's go for it. This is one of those roll the dice moments. And it was just a brilliant opportunity that I would have kicked myself if we hadn't said yes. So that was it. So we decided to go for it. We got through to the filming. And then when you go on, it is completely as you would imagine. You don't see the dragons until you step out and you have your opportunity to pitch. Weeks of multiple times writing that pitch and getting it checked by BBC, who kept doing these small edits, and then we had to try and learn it again, and then they would chop and change it and we had to learn it again.
I was going to say the prep work. So the prep was knowing your business inside out, but if you're raising anyway, you're pitching for investment, but it just happens to be on camera. What other preparation did you do to feel confident?
When you're pitching for investment in a normal way, of course, you've got your pitch deck and you know your numbers right now. You've got files that you can refer to or send on, you said, yes, I'll send you that piece of information afterwards in an email. But it's more encyclopedic. It's a bit like, studying for an exam back at uni or school, where you've got to know all the information because you've got to pull out a margin figure from 3 years ago, or what happened, why were there those losses, and really getting into the nitty gritty of things that happened quite a long time ago, because whilst it was a young business, it was still already at that point about 5 years old. So I had quite a lot of history to go through. And we were in there for 2 hours, so they did go through a lot. And I think it's because it is a genuine process. It's very rigorous. They are testing your mettle as an entrepreneur, which is part of the process. They're also trying to get some good, entertaining telly.
Did you watch previous episodes and try and find patterns?
Yeah, I was on there with my COO, and we got a bit over the top. It comes back to this obsessive nature that we both have. We're downloading all of the transcripts from all the episodes and putting it through AI to then understand which of the questions that are the ones that come up the most, and pattern match, and so that we could predict what to expect, which was really helpful. But yeah, we went a bit OTT
I think
on it.
Potentially, but also when you feel prepared, you feel more confident. And if you feel more confident, you'll do a better pitch. And what was it like standing there pitching? How did you feel?
Yeah, very nerve-wracking. I definitely fluffed my initial line to sort of stop and start again. It was more that it's such an unusual situation. Very rarely do you go in and deliver a pitch like that. Even though I'd pitched hundreds of times my business, it's just the kind of formality of them coming in through the doors, them staring at you. But as soon as that initial pitch was over and it went into the Q&A, I was completely at ease, because I knew my subject material really well and had done it hundreds of times before. And it just felt like a normal conversation. You almost forgot that the cameras were there, except every so often they would go, cut, dab the shine on our forehead, because we'd obviously were sweating so much under the lights. They were, oh God. And we'd occasionally we'd moved too much off our spots and we'd have to shuffle back, which then broke the fourth wall or whatever that's called. Yeah. And you're, oh God, yeah, we are filming. But you'd forgotten.
That's quite nice. Yeah, because you're building the rapport, and obviously you're being asked questions about something you know inside out, which is amazing. But at what point in that whole 2-hour period did you realise this wasn't just about getting an investment, you were going to have a choice with who to partner with?
They were making good noises, and you could see there was at one point where Steven says, "It's gone quiet. That's a good sign. That usually means they're planning their next move." And then you could see a little smile from both Sarah Davies and Deborah Reedon, who were the ones who ultimately offered alongside Steven. So yeah, at that point we knew, but we weren't expecting. We were going in there with an aim of getting an offer, but we weren't expecting to then actually have to go to the war room and sort of choose between the three.
Well, just very quickly before we move on to the next question, I love that you always refer to everyone on there with their full names, apart from Steven Bartlett, who's just Steven. He's done an amazing job on his branding. But receiving multiple offers in the den meant deciding which investor was the right fit for the next stage of your business. And you have a very short period of time to make that decision. When you've got more than one dragon wanting to invest, how do you actually decide whose money to take? Did you have a gut feeling? Had you discussed it before?
Well, they were our top three, absolutely loved. And they were very warm, all three of them during the whole process. We really liked them on a personal level. It really made us feel at ease. And that's huge. The gut feel is a big part of how you make that decision. In the end, it came down to, well, we want whoever we choose to feel fully invested, and therefore we didn't want to split it. So they had real skin in the game. And then it therefore came down to what's the added value that we could get? And given that our business is so driven by digital marketing, that made the call to be with Steven as opposed to Sarah and Deborah, because it is a huge part of how we grow our business. So it was more about that balance.
And what has Steven Bartlett's involvement been with the business since?
So Steven is a super lovely guy. In terms of the investment, I don't know how much you know about how it works, but it is very a laborious process after the handshake agreement, which is what happens on screen. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of due diligence, etc. And the business was changing all the time throughout that process. So in the end, we decided not to progress, but he was amazing throughout and was really supportive and a real mentor. So it was an amazing opportunity for brand visibility.
I was going to say, from a PR comms perspective, that sounds like win-win, because you're not giving away any equity of the business, but you've got the brand exposure. Just to be completely callous about this.
It's incredible for the ability for a small business to be able to get that time. I think it ultimately is sort of 6 minutes on BBC One and be able to speak to the audience about it. And our business, even before it was aired, was growing significantly. And I think then you just make a decision as to whether or not it's going to be the right partnership, or the partnership that's required in the same way as maybe when we originally filmed it. And as any investment conversation goes, you have to align on whether it makes sense at the time of investing. I think a good number do go through, but also a good number don't when they're going through that process after the show finishes.
Well, that double opportunity shouldn't be underestimated, because I know one friend of mine, Dej, he went on and secured investment and then said no to it afterwards. It's actually, this isn't right for me, but had the exposure. So turning that television moment into long-term growth can be a very difficult challenge. A lot of founders go after exposure, and it can be through paid marketing or earned media, which is PR, which is you going on a not paid placement. And after the episode aired, I believe sales jumped by 2,000%.
Yes, yeah, overnight.
And from the outside, that sounds incredible. But what does that kind of spike actually do for the small business? Because I presume it fills me with great fear, because if you think about stock, fulfillment, packaging, customer service, you're running a business at a certain level. And then for the sales to come in that much higher, what happened next? Your face says it all.
Yeah, no, it was actually good. We filmed in June of 2024. And the episode aired in October 2025. And that's what I mean. In between time, a lot had changed, including we had listings in supermarkets. So we'd had to already scale up production to meet that additional customer base. We had built out the team. We were building brand awareness every day, which was driving more sales and repeat business. So we'd already been able to build up a bit more of a buffer to prepare for that event. And we were also really focused on making the most of it. So we simplified our offer on the website, just offering people one thing, that we then packed all of that ahead of time so that we knew that we could just get the bottles out the door, and it was going to be really easy from a fulfillment perspective, and we would be getting delighted customers getting their bottle within 2 days and be able to really build and take advantage of that. That was our key focus, but it was weeks and weeks of preparation going up to that date. And the thing is, you're told only by the BBC 2 or 3 weeks ahead of when the date is actually going to be. And they always caveat that they might not actually include you because they, it's edit, it's their program. So we were, is it going to not? But you have to just go with a hope and a prayer. It is going to be, and you have to prepare. 2 things in business, I think. You have to prepare for failure. You have to be really aware of the risks. You also have to prepare for it to go really well. And that includes this focus on making sure the website was perfect, doing test runs and building that very singular offer. So that spike that we saw onto the website, they had a very special offer. We were giving away a pourer, a mixer, some sodas, some tonics, a stirrer, all in one. So it was a really lovely offer so people could get the special Dragon's Den deal of the day. And I think that just really worked. It's that sense of, right, this is just for today. And it really captured people's attention as they were visiting the site. Yeah.
This sounds dreamy and it just sounds so well executed. And I've interviewed a number of people who said, oh no, we had no idea that was going to happen. It was a complete disaster and our customer service nearly had a heart attack. But for you, you'd done the prep work, you'd forecast, you'd learned how to scale with your retailers. So did it go out smoothly? Were there any hiccups?
There are always hiccups when you're dealing with that many orders. Some will go to the wrong place. The customer service kind of levels really goes through the roof. But again, we'd had the opportunity to really plan ahead and our team was we were small, but all focused behind this one thing and making it a success.
Love this.
Yeah.
And then since then, Mother Root has expanded into major supermarkets and launched in the US, which is huge. Looking back, how much growth has come from Dragon's Den and how much had already been set in motion before the cameras turned on?
Yeah, we were already doing best-in-class rate of sale in supermarkets. So we were doing really well from that perspective. But Dragon's Den was a step change. It is really, you can see it. You can, if you look at your brand on Google Trends, you can see unusual spikes in, usually it's media. Let's say you suddenly get a piece on the TV or you get a really nice piece in a national paper. Or let's say something goes viral. So if you're really good at organic viral posts, you'll see these spikes. So ours was this just off the chart spike from the show, which then settled going into the end of the year at twice the awareness levels. And that coincided with us also unlocking Sainsbury's as a new retailer. So it really meant a fantastic Christmas 2025. So all of those things really matter. And it's given us confidence actually to go, having those big campaign moments that we might have been nervous about putting some spend behind, it's given us the realization that actually, let's try and do something again. Obviously, we can't replicate Dragon's Den, but we can come up with our own moments where we create a bit of a splash and do that at the right time, right before a key trading period like Christmas or summer, for example. So now we're starting to think more in that fashion and we've got a bit more confidence because we've got some examples of how well that worked in the past.
It's so nice, isn't it, when you can invest in that proactive behaviour because you've got that confidence and gut feeling to go for it. And it's exciting because, well, it may work, it may not work. And there's a couple of things we've done, but on a very small scale where we've taken a risk. It's really nice to experiment and test and learn, but you need the money in the bank to do all that stuff. Although my accountant accused me year 2, he's like, I see that you're saving your corporation tax. It's due in 7 months' time. You do know most people have spent that and reinvested it in the business and try to make it back.
Yeah, I was just going to say, test and learn is one of the main things that we try and reiterate across the business. It was what really was the first step change from the early days, or throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, but not in a very systematic way, and just basically trying everything, trying to do everything at once and being a bit just burning myself out. As soon as I started to view things as a test, it also took so much of the exhausting, ruminating, should I do this, what if? It took that pressure away and got focused on, okay, what's the smallest thing that we can do next to get the learning we need to then maybe do it bigger next time. And that test and learn has continued throughout the business. And as we've grown the team, we're now 18 people. We're all trying to make sure that we don't lose that test and learn mindset.
I love that. Something that we do with our guests is around now, next and never. What is one thing you're focused on right now for the business?
Right now is building out the team. And that is about hiring great talent and making sure that we don't dilute that level of talent that we already have. So with our hiring process, that means getting good at interviewing and building those processes as to how you can try and do the best job you can at that.
It makes or breaks any job with the people around you, but it is the hardest part because people are human beings. They have opinions, they have bad days. Yeah, interesting. I'm going to watch and see what you do with that. And what about what's next for the business?
And what's next for the business will be thinking bigger. So US is scaling unbelievably quickly. Last week, we sold more bottles of Mother Root in the US than we did in the UK. So we've passed that transition period. So it's now from here on, it's our larger market. And we've done that in 6 months, which is unreal. So what that means, so coming from the mindset of what's worked to get us here, I think it still applies, but we just have to start thinking at a bigger scale. Those calls, I think we can afford to take bigger risks. Yes, hiring some really top tier talent because we need it. And also the team is going to get bigger and they're going to bring that knowledge and they're going to bring the big thinking and the big campaigns. And I think that's what's next, is thinking bigger.
And what would you not do ever as a founder? What's the never?
I would never say yes to absolutely everything, I would say. Prioritization is fundamental. And a lot of that means saying no. And that can be quite uncomfortable because especially when business is a human game and it's about your network, your community, you want to help everyone. Great opportunities come across your desk all the time and that you'd be like, oh, that does sound cool. Oh, that brand is quite cool. Oh, that person, I love that. I love that influencer really loves our brand. I love that they want us to show our drink. And if you mull over all of those things, actually just say no to 90% of the stuff that comes your way and keep super focused on the big things that move the needle. But you know what? I do find it really difficult to craft a message that says no, that also feels warm and respectful. And I was actually probably doing the worst thing and avoiding, which means like ultimately not getting back to people. I find a good use of AI has been to help me just get that paralysis out. And they start me with a kind, probably usually too over the top, but a kind letdown, and I'll tweak it. And then gets it going and sent. And then that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, brilliant. And then our question from our previous guest, which was Kate Halfpenny from Halfpenny London, who set up this beautiful bridal brand and has grown over 21 years. And we talked about mastering the art of celebrity and how to work with celebrities and sort of a PR funnel. Her question for you was, as a solo founder, how does she find the right CEO or business partner to come into her business? And this is obviously relevant for me too. I'd love to find a senior person that I could trust and delegate to, but I've time and time again gone, it's just easier if I do it myself. And I am then limited because it's me and I'm only one person, and apparently you need to sleep and look after yourself and there's only 24 hours in the day. Do you have any advice for people bringing in senior hires or a co-founder or a sort of business partner?
Yes, I think it's really hard. What worked for me is when we were advertising for a role, it happened to be an operations lead. We put it out to our network, including our customer base. And Alice was a customer. Alice, who came on the Dragon's Den with me and is now our COO. And she just loved the drink. It was her favourite non-alc drink. She passionately believed in it. She'd already become very evangelical with her friends. And she said, this is actually not at the level that I would want, but I wanted to let you know I really love your brand. And so I met her anyway, thinking, just love her, kind of the way she wrote. And as soon as I met and interviewed her, I was like, okay, I need to find a way to make sure she gets in this business, because she had the exact skill set that I needed. And it was about making it work. So making some other decisions in terms of what we stopped doing. When you spot the right person, it's like fundamental to prioritize getting that person in, because it makes a huge difference. She was very much the opposite skill set to what I had as well. So that's also a key thing when you're looking for that second business partner or someone who's going to play that role. And yeah, if they really love and believe in what you're doing, you're going to build that trust and you're going to be able to get through the difficult times as well, because it's for a bigger mission. It's not just a job, it's for the longer term. So I'd say that's key.
Love this. This is great and quite inspiring. I love that you put it out to your community as well, because then you get people who are already invested in the business because they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
What would your question be for our next guest?
What's your approach to making big decisions when you don't have perfect information?
That's really interesting because everything we're doing is for the first time on a daily basis, and the decision fatigue is quite real. But yeah, that's really hard because you're pushing things forward, you're doing things for the first time, you don't have the information. The experience is what you get after you've needed it. That's very interesting. Right, I will let you know. Thank you very much. Bethan, it's been an absolute joy speaking to you. Huge congratulations on Motherroot. It's so exciting to see a female founder, and I have to actually call out, I should just say founder, but someone succeeds so brilliantly and with such beautiful packaging, product, values, ethos, everything. There's good things come. So well done with everything. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been fun.
If you'd like to contact Bethan, you can find all of her details in the show notes, along with a recap of the advice that she has shared. And please like, subscribe, rate and review, interact with the podcast somehow through your listening app, because it really does make a difference to me, the host, to know that you're there and enjoying it. Or DM us at hello@fallowfieldmason.com to suggest future guests or questions that you might like answered in your own entrepreneurial journey. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.